Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtedar, your host, and this is my fifth update on the rather tragic and devastating Hamas-Gaza war, which started with a horrible and extremely atrocious terrorist attack by Hamas on Israel, which has now led to about 1,300 deaths and nearly 3,000 people wounded. And it also showed some of the ugliest sides of human behavior, where people, innocent civilians, have been killed and massacred, especially the horrendous events surrounding a music festival where Hamas fighters killed about 250 people who were attending, and most of them young people at the music festival. And then in retaliation for the last 6 days, Israel has been bombing Gaza incessantly. And according to many reports, over 1,500 people have died. 500 of the victims are children. Gaza is a very small place, basically 140 square kilometers, in which there are over 2.2 million people concentrated. And as a result of that, it's impossible for civilians to escape any bombardment by Israeli forces. So in about 6,000 bombs that have been dropped in 6 days, nearly 1,500 people have died in Gaza. 500 of them are children. Over 200 of them are women. And about 4,000 to 5,000 people have been injured. But today, while these figures are horrible, and this war is going to have long-term implications on global geopolitics, the thing that I want to focus on today is on America and America's foreign policy. America is in a state of chaos. We do not have a speaker, and we have a president whose approval ratings are tanking. So my question really is for this is I'm going to basically talk about two things. Can America start another unending war or sponsor another unending war while it is in this state of political chaos? I also will talk a little bit about contrasting Joe Biden's view of the conflict and Bernie Sanders, who was his main contender in the Democratic Party to be president of the United States in the 2020 elections. But before I do that, please, those of you who have been watching Conversations but have not subscribed to it, do subscribe to Conversations, like the video, press the bell icon, and if you can, do join and become a member of Conversations. You can find the link to joining Conversations in the description of the video or the button right next to the button to subscribe. So let's start by looking at what's happening in the United States at the moment. There is no speaker, and every attempt by the GOP, which has a very slim majority in the Congress, apparently seems to be leading to a chaos. So if the United States wants to allocate funds either for the Ukraine war or to Israel in order to support it in its efforts in its war in Gaza, the United States Congress cannot do that because without the speaker, it cannot pass laws and bills. It shows complete dysfunctionality in the US Parliament that they do not have a speaker. And the ruling party, the majority party in the lower house, is in complete chaos. So this shows that it kind of reflects the chaos in the Israeli parliament, where they also had to form a coalition government, which led eventually to one of the most extremist, if not the extremist, government coming to power in Israel. So one thing is that there is tremendous chaos in the Congress, and so resources, etc., cannot be allocated or released, especially new resources, without the Congress becoming more functional. So that is one thing. The other thing is President Joe Biden. Let's look at his approval rating. First, President Biden's approval rating is 40.5. This data that I'm showing you is from Real Clear Politics. They take all the various surveys that are out there and average it out. And these surveys are very current these days. The polling is done on a weekly basis. And so if you see the disapproval rating of Joe Biden is nearly 55%, and only 40% approve him. So it's a negative 15 or negative 14.4% is Biden's approval rating, which means that uh, more than a significant majority of people in America disapprove of what Biden is doing. This would include his foreign policy towards the war in Ukraine and his handling of the economy at home. And so, my question is that with this approval rating, does President Biden have the mandate to take America into another unending war? But let me assure you, the war in Gaza is not going to get over in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. The strategic clarity is still missing, or at least the Israelis haven't shared with us. Are they just going to punish the Palestinian population by killing a lot of them in Gaza, or are they actually going and precipitating a regime change in Gaza, which would require occupation and a long stay? So we don't know how long it is, but I can assure you that it's going to last for months. And so that's the United States, which has already sent aircraft carriers into the area and is committing unwavering support to the Israeli initiatives in Gaza, its war, its bombardments, etc. And as it is already, war crimes are being committed and humanitarian disaster is being visible. As you can see from the video itself, the devastation in Gaza in just 6 days of bombing has been stunning. So does Biden feel confident that with a negative 14.4% approval rating, can he take this country to war? Yes, American soldiers will not be fighting in it directly, but American resources are also deployed. American ammunition is being used. American weapons are being used. American intelligence is being used. American money will also be used in this war, as it is in the war between Russia and Ukraine. The second thing that I want to point out about Biden is when you ask Americans, is America going in the right direction? Is the country going in the right direction? Only 22.6% say that America is going in the right direction. And 67.1% say America is going in the wrong direction. It's 2:7. So 2 people think that America is going in the right direction, and 7 people think that they are going in the people who think that America is going in the wrong direction under Biden's leadership are 5:2. Oh, sorry, 7:2. So it's unbelievable as to how dissatisfied Americans are with Joe Biden. And for this president, with this record, I don't think it is prudent or wise for him to be able to abuse his powers as commander in chief and commit America to another unending war in the Middle East. Biden has been trying to take America out of the Middle East, and now here he's being manipulated by an organization that he so clearly defined as evil and terroristic. He's allowing Hamas to suck America back into the Middle East. That's not enough. Even when he's speaking these days, Biden is coming across as quite incompetent. For example, he told on Wednesday, he told various leaders of the Jewish community that he had seen photographs of the babies who had been beheaded by Hamas fighters in Israel, the children whose heads were cut off. And he, at least in his comments, he said he had seen those videos, and then the White House had to come out and clarify, saying no, he. Well, they didn't say he misspoke, but they said that he was not referring to pictures. He had not seen any pictures. The White House does not have any pictures. They have not seen any photographic evidence of 40 babies being beheaded. He had just heard that news, and so he was sharing. So we have a president now with one of the biggest intelligence operation under his command in the world, the CIA, the NSA, the Defense Intelligence Agencies, the FBI, counterterrorism, billions of dollars of satellites, etc., etc., etc. Five Eyes sharing intelligence with NATO powers, with Israel, etc. And this president, unfortunately, is indulging in disseminating disinformation. And I think the White House owes Americans an apology for the president who is indulging in disinformation. And Biden's inadequacies as a leader in this moment of crisis, especially when he has not explicitly called out for all parties to exercise restraint it seems as if he is encouraging and green signaling more atrocities, more violence, more warfare. When you contrast that with Bernie Sanders, who challenged him, who was his main opponent in 2020 within the Democratic universe, you can see the difference. And look at Bernie Sanders' statement. It is unbelievable the difference between what Bernie Sanders said, who is a very important senator, and Joe Biden. I'm reading the last paragraph of Bernie Sanders' statement. It says, right now, the international community must focus on reducing humanitarian suffering and protecting innocent people on both sides of this conflict. The targeting of civilians is a war crime, no matter who does it. The targeting of civilians is a war crime, no matter who does it. Israel's blanket denial of food, water, and other necessities to Gaza is a serious violation of international law and will do nothing but harm innocent civilians. The United States has rightly offered solidarity and support to Israel in responding to Hamas's attack, but we must also insist on restraint from Israeli forces attacking Gaza and work to secure UN humanitarian access. Let us not forget that half of the 2 million people in Gaza are children. Children and innocent people do not deserve to be punished for the acts of Hamas. This is the voice of a global leader. This is a voice who sees the broader picture. And he understands that while Israel has the right to defend itself, violence which is indiscriminate, which will lead to killing of many children and innocent people who have absolutely nothing to do with the horrendous terrorist attacks that Hamas launched, is not going to solve the problem. And so you can contrast this, and as we see more and more images of devastation, death, and destruction from Gaza, the contrast between Biden's approach, his disinformation in his speeches, and Bernie Sanders' moral clarity is going to highlight the leadership deficit that America is experiencing both in the White House and in the Congress. So one of the things that I think we have to understand is that given this, it is important for other countries, especially in the region, the so-called Israeli friends and allies in the Abrahamic Accords, to come forward and provide greater leadership in the region. And I also want to point out to something which has not yet been fully confirmed, but there are lots of reports that the United States has once again frozen Iran's $6 billion, which are in the Qatari banks. Now, this is an interesting policy initiative. It is being done by Biden's feeling insecure at the false attacks by Republicans. Republican Party members are accusing Biden of financing Iran while Iran is supporting Hamas and Hamas is doing what it did in Israel. So out of, I think, fear of that Republican accusation sticking, Biden and the Qatari government, the US government and the Qatari government have refrozen Hamas, Iranian money, which was, I guess, earned by selling oil to South Korea. But what is, to me, interesting is that that money was given to Iran for prisoner exchange and hostage exchange. So if the US is going to renege on a promise on its side of its commitment of its deal to Iran, as it has reneged under Trump in the JCPOA. So if America is going to break every agreement that it makes, what do you think is going to happen in the negotiations to release the 20 hostages that Hamas has? Will parties then take America's commitment to fulfill its side of the bargain in the exchange? I don't know. I think this was a bad timing, this allowing domestic political narratives and domestic political concerns to undermine international relations, foreign policy, and especially at this time where the negotiations are so critical, I think is not a very smart way to lead. So as the war unfolds, I will continue to provide more briefings, but just take this as the summary of today's discussion. Can America enter a war which could be a never-ending engagement in the Middle East, America being sucked back into all of the problems of Middle East, have we not learned anything from America's response and engagement in Afghanistan to the Taliban? After fighting the Taliban for 20 years, trying to eliminate terrorism and Taliban and religious extremism from Afghanistan, all we did was we left Afghanistan in the hands of the Taliban with billions of dollars of American weapons. Uh, how does America's lessons learned from its experience in Afghanistan translate into Israeli policies in Gaza? That remains to be seen. Finally, I think it is important for more voices like Bernie Sanders to speak up, especially given the fact that our president looks less and less presidential. So it's important for more sober and more statements like voices in America to come out from other leaders and more balanced statements to compensate for the deficiencies of Joe Biden as a leader. I hope I have provided you something interesting to think about. I will see you again, hopefully tomorrow. I'm still in Italy. As you can see, I'm sitting in a villa in Florence. This is a 15th century villa. And I might make a video of the other side, which is very stunning, and share that video in this video as I speak. And so please hang on and stay with Khanversation. We are going to provide an alternative to the media perspective that you see from mainstream media, which is essentially, at least in the West, dominated by only one narrative. So until next time, this is Muqtedar Khan, your host. And please subscribe to Khanversations, like the video, press the bell icon, and if possible, join Khanversations. Until tomorrow, take care. Bye.